V dnešním díle magazínu Svět okem Raptora zavzpomíná srbský prezident Aleksandar Vučić, jak Čína podala pomocnou ruku a přeměnila nekonkurenceschopné ocelárny v Smederevu na prosperující podnik. Další reportáž nám připomene, že čínské ekologické technologie jsou rozhodující pro energetickou transformaci Evropy. V poslední reportáži Charles Grant, ředitel Centra pro evropskou reformu, pohovoří o rozdílech mezi Čínou a USA a rozdílech mezi Čínou, EU a evropskými vztahy. Čínský prezident Xi Jinping 29. dubna odpověděl na dopis srbských pracovníků ocelárny HBIS Group ve Smederevu a povzbudil je, aby nově přispěli k přátelství mezi Čínou a Srbskem. Továrna, která se nachází ve městě Smederevo, byla kdysi největší ocelárnou v Srbsku a její historie sahá až do roku 1913. V dobách své největší slávy byla huť, pýchou Srbska, která zajišťovala přibližně 40% daňových příjmů města a živila téměř třetinu jeho obyvatel. Koncem 90. let 20. století však klesající konkurenceschopnost a špatné hospodaření přivedly závod na pokraj uzavření. V roce 2016 koupila smederevskou ocelárnu čínská skupina HBIS Group v rámci iniciativy Pásmo a cesta. Srbský prezident Aleksandar Vučić stále vzpomíná, jak Čína podala pomocnou ruku a přeměnila závod.
Has always been supported this or another way by Beijing. I was, as a prime minister, searching for solution, begging for solution of our steel mill in Smederevu. And then President Xi came to Serbia. It was 2016. And we hosted him. We treated him in a very, we believe, very hospitable way. Then people said to me, all these advisors, if you can get presidency on your side, that to bring Chinese company to just take care of that steel mill, we are saved. And I was like, during that lunch in Smederevo, it was a villa overlooking Danube, and I was like, Mr. President, and then I was shy, and I was a bit ashamed, how to approach the most important world leader, asking him for a big favor for this country, and why did he need to hear it? Why did he need to listen to that?
How did you do it?
I was preparing him to listen to me at least for these 2-3 sentences of what kind of significance and importance it would be for Serbia if we resolve this issue. And then I realized that I was talking to a guy that was much, much, much smarter and much better prepared than I was, than I thought. He said to me, Mr. Vučić, I give you my word, that will be resolved. After he said that, I was like, start flying, it's like, because when you find a resolution of a big issue for your country, and it happens like just coming out of the blue, that's something that no one can compare with anything else. And we will never forget it. We will never forget what happened in 2016, because then a company, Habis, from the province Hebei, came to Serbia, and they saved literally, it's 5,200 people that secure their jobs for the future. But not only that, it's more than 20,000 people that were working, cooperating with that steel mill. And after that we had this big mining companies, many private companies coming to Serbia. China is a very reliable pillar of an utmost importance for Serbia's future and a true friend.
Čínské ekologické technologie jsou rozhodující pro energetickou transformaci Evropy. Co znamená čínská technologie pro energetickou transformaci Evropy? V době, kdy se čínský prezident Xi Jinping chystá na návštěvu Evropy, se podíváme na spolupráci Číny a EU v oblasti klimatu, která je klíčovým pilířem těchto dvoustranných vztahů. Přinášíme rozhovor s Huvem Slaterem, odborníkem na klima a energetiku ve společnosti Klientov. Názory vyjádřené ve videu jsou jeho vlastní a nemusí se nutně shodovat s názory CGTN.
What attracts you most about China's energy sector?
That's a good question. I've been in China for 13 years now, working in the climate and energy space. I think when I first came, it was the excitement of how fast things were moving, right? Like with anything in China, the economy is developing so quickly. It means that things change really quickly. And so when you can see something, an opportunity, like the development of renewable energy, if you can make that development early on, it moves really quickly in China, and that's something that definitely attracted me to working in China.
The European Union has announced its investigation into China's electric vehicle exports. China is saying that the increase in the exports is because of its tech innovation. The EU is saying that no, it's because of state subsidies. So there are differences on this matter. There are differences of views. Do you see both sides listening to each other enough so that they can find a common solution?
I think that's really important, the listening side of things, because look, for the energy transition, we need to go fast to deal with climate change. To do the energy transition quickly, we need these key technologies to get cheaper and cheaper over time, right? So that we can apply them in the marketplace. We need to find ways that the energy transition is both quick, but also has benefits for people in all countries, right? Economic benefits. So that means that we need to work together to try to find ways where economic value and jobs and all of those important things can be found on both sides.
What do you see as China's role in EU's energy transition and vice versa? What's EU's role in China's energy transition?
It's critical. It's critical to just take some of the key technologies that we're using today to decarbonize, right? Solar power, wind power technology. The way that China has managed to bring the cost of these technologies down through application domestically within China has meant that it's much more affordable for other countries, including Europe, to deploy them in their own countries. So that's really, really important. And obviously vice versa as well. So China is also learning from Europe. One of the key pillars of decarbonization in Europe has been carbon pricing and the carbon market. China is also implementing its own carbon pricing mechanism. So this sort of bilateral engagement, which is long-standing and a very strong point for international cooperation on climate, I think, the EU-China relationship. It's important that we keep that going in the future.
As you said, there's a long-standing relationship between China and EU on the climate issue. Back during the last US administration, the United States backed out of the Paris Agreement, and China and EU they bonded together and sort of stepped up to save this deal. We are facing kind of a similar uncertainty right now. So this is a kind of a hypothetical question. If something like that happens again, do you see China and EU can do that, can save that deal again under the current political climate?
I think both sides are already preparing for that.
Okay.
I think the strength of the relationship that's been built over the last decade or two, a very, very close engagement, both between policymakers and experts and civil society, puts us in good stead that I think that bilateral relationship will hold up to some extent. And that's really important because international cooperation can go one or two ways, and we really want relationships like the EU-China one to stay solid and lead to more progress.
Charles Grant, ředitel Centra pro evropskou reformu, pohovořil o rozdílech mezi Čínou a USA a rozdílech mezi Čínou, EU a evropskými vztahy.
You have been doing research and try to explain to your Chinese counterpart about the differences between China, US and China, EU and European relations. Tell me more about some of the most important differences.
I think it's very important to understand that that the United States and Europe have different interests vis-a-vis China, because the United States cares about what China is. The EU cares more about what China does. Chinese power per se is a worry to the US, whatever China does. But Europe, I say, cares about what China does much more than America, which cares more about what China is.
What do you think the other way around? Does China care about what Europe is and what Europe does?
I think that China cares about what Europe does. I think China cares about what Europe does more than what China is. What China thinks what Europe is quite nice. It's good because it's not the same as the United States. It's part of a multipolar world, and China would be very happy if Europe developed as a stronger geopolitical entity, different from the United States, as to help to create a multipolar world order of the sort that China would like to see.
Whether the things we are doing today, including the actions and policies taken by the European side, making sense or not?
Well, I think the Chinese do take a very long-term perspective compared to some Western countries, because Western countries have to worry about elections, and politicians worry about how do they win next year's election or the election the year after next. So I think they're not very good at being long-term, but there are certain trends clear, and one clear trend is that China is an increasingly important power. It's a dominant power in many parts of Asia, and America and China are the two great superpowers in the world today. Europe is an economic superpower, but not a political superpower.
Děkujeme, že jste sledovali náš pořad. Nashledanou u dalšího dílu pořadu Svět okem Raptora.